Hello, friends. Welcome to tonight's live chat. I was going through the chat box and I'm like, oh my God, they're talking already. It's always good to see you. Always good to see you on a Friday night, a Saturday, and also good to see you in the chat box chatting it up before we get started. I'm so glad to see you. Tonight's live chat hopefully will be insightful, on point for a lot of you. And hopefully it can relate. I know it can relate to myself, it can relate to some of my clients, and it can also relate to even some of my colleagues because the idea of family tends to be very biased all over the world. So let me make sure though, before I jump in, give me 1 second, guys. I don't know, what did I do? Here we go. I lost the comment section. Let me go ahead and sign in on Instagram here. I'm going to say hello, everyone. Welcome for a community experience. Join me on my channel. Okay. So Instagram is good. You guys are good. Hello. I haven't seen you in a long time, Ponytail. So it's really good to see you. Hello. I'm going to welcome you guys in a little bit here. I just want to jump in and give us a little bit of information that can kind of support the topic of tonight. If anything is going on with my microphone, guys, let me know, as you always do. Hopefully we won't have any issues. So let's jump into this topic, okay, guys? I was going to do the topic of narcissistic siblings tonight, but I will hold that off until tomorrow. Tonight, I think it makes better sense, and I do have more motivation to talk about the whole idea of what family truly is and what it isn't. The simple fact that there are tons of people all over the world, not just in the United States, but all over the world, who say that family is everything. And I used to hear that growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, late 90s. And I remember thinking, at a time in my life where I was very naive, I was just a child, I remember thinking, yes, family is everything. And the older I got, however, and the more exposure I got through college and graduate school and being a therapist and, working in different places where I had to come in contact with families and parents and family dynamics, I realized over time that while the fantasy and while the idea of family is everything is beautiful, the reality is a lot of us take that too far. We don't have a middle ground view of family as everything. So what do? We kind of take this attitude that, okay, well, if my family leaves me, I'm a nobody. If my family mistreats me, I'm just supposed to swallow that and go on and act like it never happened, right? If my family disregards me or disrespects me, I guess I'm supposed to just get over it. I've had clients say that. Or if my family decides to abuse me and harm me in ways that's psychologically abusive, I guess I'm supposed to just be okay with that. If you look at the statement of family is everything, it is missing so much, right? Because again, while family is everything, to some people, it's not everything to a lot of people. The other piece of this that's important to keep in mind as we go along through this conversation is family is not everything when they hurt you. Family is not everything when they hurt you. Psychology books, family therapy books, philosophy books, sociology books have completely kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? They've kind of gone over that like it doesn't exist. And so if you go to a library or you have some books about family, if you read through the pages of a typical book, if you go online and type in family, what do you see? Well, you're most likely going to see happy things. You're going to see cohesiveness. You're going to see togetherness. You're going to see pictures of families smiling and holding each other's hands and skipping away, right? The reality, however, is while that might be the case for some people, and it may be the case for some people at that particular time in their life, That doesn't mean that everybody else experiences that. And so what happens with this family is everything mentality is a lot of you, and especially a lot of you who see me on this channel, or we've had consultations, or you may be a client of mine. One thing that's important on this channel is highlighting, I'll put it this way, highlighting that there needs to be balanced, right? There needs to be balance at some pieces of this conversation, because again, not everybody can relate to the family as everything. The other piece of the puzzle is family dynamics can make or break you. And it depends on the kind of dynamics that you're dealing with, right? Because if you're coming from a family system that has done nothing but abused, harmed, mistreated, minimized, ignored, devalued you in any way, it's going to be really hard for you to assess where you need to be. And there's a lot of people like that that see me for therapy, see my colleagues. They want to know, excuse me, they want to know, how do I live with the fact that my family is not that beautiful, free-spirited, loving family that I thought we were, I wanted us to be, or that I think everybody else has. So tonight's live chat really is to talk about the dysfunctional family system, the psychology of basically the message of family is everything. I think we need to kind of tease that apart. I'll tell you why this became a topic just briefly. In the past couple of days, I've had at least 5 families reach out to me from the past. They were my clients, and then I also had some people that consulted with me. And we were talking about just togetherness and, the need for familiarity and the need for family and support. And in all 5 of the cases that I went back to this week, the number one prevailing theme was an individual who wanted to go no contact with family. They felt like they experienced what we call parental psychopathology. So there's something going on with the parent. The parent is unstable. There's a personality, a personality pathology. There's a mental health pathology. There's intense anger, explosive anger, right? So individuals who wanted to go no contact with their families, parental and personality pathology. There was a disruption in the family system in some fashion that caused intense problems. That disruption could be drugs, it could be abortion, it could be child abuse, it could be adult child abuse, it could be anything, right? But the theme was a disruption in the family structure. There was also this arrogance and minimization from parents who were narcissistic and sociopathic. So parents who are self-centered and parents who are cold and lack empathy. And so I thought, you know what? I think we need to bring this to the channel and just talk about it, because all 5 of those cases had some kind of grief that they were dealing with. The grief and the loss of not having what they wanted, the grief and the loss of feeling like they can't measure up to the ideal of a happy, healthy family dynamic. And I think there was also within these cases some depression. That the question that caused the depression, I think, was, why can't I have what I think I'm supposed to have? And my question to some of my clients this week was, why do you automatically think that all families are positive, that all families are available, that all families will give you some kind of internalized energy, motivation, right? Where does that concept come from? Where does that idea kind of emerge from? Who told you that this was something you had to have in order to progress in the world? And some of my clients just couldn't give me, couldn't give me that answer. And so I did have to explain to them the psychology behind the family is everything mentality, and how it kind of keeps you stuck and locked in. And it also hurts you when you realize that, okay, my family doesn't measure up here, right? If you try to measure your family up against that fantasy of family is everything, family is wonderful, family is close, nothing bad ever happens in families. And if it does, keep it hush hush. Don't say anything about it. Don't question anything. Don't share your true emotions. Just act like nothing ever happened. Just praise your family 100%. That is a painful thing to deal with when you realize that's not my family. Let me say that, and I'm going to get to the chat box in just a little bit. And we can talk a little bit about this. And I also want to welcome you. But let me just say that some of the research that I looked at on this topic really pointed to sociology as being the problem. Sociology highlights the social system and the community and the society as really important pieces of the puzzle when it comes to our development as human beings. And so sociology really takes a really close look at how do families dialogue? How do families interrelate? How do families grow over time? How are individuals connecting with each other so they can then bring children into the world and build their family? So what's the process there? What does society say about that? What are some of the patterns in society and of behavior that really adds to the family piece of who we are as humans? So sociology takes a really close look at this. As I was looking at some of the research, I thought this is very interesting. There's a theme here. And here's what the theme was, that the idea from a sociological point of view, and maybe psychology too, but I saw it more from sociology, is that a system is the most important thing to have in your life in order to help you become successful, in order for you to feel strong, in order for you to build a life of your own. You have to be a part of a system. That's kind of what I'm seeing in the research around sociology and families. And interestingly, the system is also the family. And so sociology says we have to have a healthy system that we emerge from in order to find foundation that is firm for the rest of our lives. Until we can find that stability, we are going to be lost. We are going to be harmed. Even developmental theories highlight that if we have a terrible start to life, from being in the womb to infancy to early childhood, it's likely that problems are going to catch up to us at some point, right? That we're going to have some difficulties as an adult, as an adolescent. So I understand all of that. I think you guys understand all of that. It makes a lot of sense. But sociology says that if you don't have that system, then you're not going to be able to survive. And if you do survive, you're going to bring some problems along with you as you try to explore explore your world. I'll put it that way. Explore your world, explore your relationships, build relationships. Everything is going to be a little bit unstable if you don't come from a firm system. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. However, what about those families and those individuals where, number one, they're put into the foster care or adoption system, right? They are abused and neglected in their families. They are ignored, right? Individuals want to go no contact from family, right? Family can sometimes be your worst nightmare, right? So if you emerge from those families, isn't that healthy, right? Wouldn't it be unhealthy to stay in that system and that dynamic if it's not doing anything but hurting you? Unfortunately, some of the research, and I did post some of it in the description box. I'll make sure to post some more so you can kind of look at this yourself. But what I'm seeing in the research around this particular topic says it doesn't matter. You have to be kind of a part of that system in order to be okay. And I do not professionally and personally see it that way. Sometimes the only success that you're going to be able to achieve is that which you attain or obtain when you come away from that toxic, dysfunctional family that may include pathological lying, abuse and neglect, right? Marginalization, I'll put it that way, sometimes even discrimination and racism right within the middle of your family. Really feeling, lied to, manipulated, hurt, triangulated, all of that, right? It's healthier to emerge from that and say, you know what, I'm done with you. I don't need this system because this system is dysfunctional. But that tends to be the less popular view of things. The more popular view of things, and you guys know this, is that family is everything. You have to be a part of a system. And if you're not, then something's probably wrong with you, right? Because the system and the family is the most important thing that you need. And I don't think that's a well-rounded view. Now, let me also say, for those of you who have narcissistic parents, you have parents who are not very empathic, your siblings may be complicated, your grandparents may be unstable, you may be mistreated over and over again. Maybe you've gone away from your family and you've come back and you want to run away again, right? There's likely patterns in your life with your family that you may define as toxic or dysfunctional that kind of keeps you stuck. And one way for therapists and even other people in the world that are not therapists, one way to determine family roles, power differentials, and close relationships is to look at the dialogue between individuals within a family. Dialogue is important. Anytime I meet with a family, I'm looking at the dialogue. How is mom responding to dad? How is dad responding to the children, right? How is this adult child sitting on my couch with their parent? How are they functioning? How are they processing what their parent is saying? That dialogue says a lot. It highlights power differentials. It highlights family roles. It highlights family alliances. It highlights who's the golden child, who's the black sheep, the scapegoat, right? Dialogue is important. Sometimes I can even look at a text exchange. Let's say an adult child comes to see me for therapy. If I look at a text exchange, guys, I can see power, I can see dynamic, and I can also see within that dialogue that something is wrong here. This is not the white picket fence family. This family has some deep-seated skeletons in the closet, some issues and challenges that need to be identified and worked through. And you can find that mainly through dialogue. Consider how you dialogue with your mom and dad now. What's that dialogue like? Is it a short dialogue? Is it I have to call mom and dad again today, right? I'm just going to say hello, ask them how they are, and then I'm going to get off the phone because I have other things to do. Is it that kind of dialogue? Or is it the dialogue of, I can't wait to go talk to my dad today. I just need to hear his voice. I need to hear what he wants to tell me, what he says. I can't wait to call my dad, right? When you get in contact with that other family member, though, what's that dialogue like? Do you do less of the talking, more of the talking? Do you feel demeaned, minimized? Do you feel supported and loved, right? So you can see within your family in and of itself what the problem is just by looking at dialogue. Now, one last thing before I go to the chat box and welcome you and kind of engage you for a little bit. Let me also say that there was some research that highlighted a few things regarding what the world tells us. And we can find that on TV. Social media is the number one spot today. Talking to other people and even being in things like clubs, support groups, whatever, right? Anywhere where there's humans, we can say that the world tells us we have to see things a certain way. So the world tells us that family is a foundation. It supports identity. Family supports belonging. Family supports socialization. Family supports a sense of purpose. And family supports interconnectedness. Now, you guys tell me in the chat box, what do you think of that? Because that isn't always the case in families, right? Sometimes your identity can be very confused. Sometimes your sense of belonging is not even there at all. Sometimes socialization doesn't even happen within the family because maybe you aren't talked to. Maybe you're considered the black sheep or the scapegoat, right? Maybe a sense of purpose can't be found within your family, right? Maybe interconnectedness is something you've desired, but it can't happen in your family. And maybe there is something that is called cumulative disadvantages. Cumulative disadvantages. There's a new term for you guys. Cumulative disadvantages. What that means is if you are emerging from a family that has intergenerational trauma, family trauma, relationship trauma, PTSD, complex PTSD, each experience that you have over time accumulates and it kind of adds up. And you may find yourself experiencing one blow, a next blow, another blow, and another blow. And those experiences accumulate over time and they add to your life in ways that can be detrimental. An example of this would be, let's say you were raised in a high crime area. Mom and dad were alcoholics. Your brother was a drug addict. And on top of that, grandma and grandpa couldn't raise you. So they put you in a foster care system and you aged out of the system. Now you're an adult. That is an example of cumulative disadvantage. I have experienced pain multiple times over the course of my life, and it has created within me this idea that I need to survive outside of my family, that my family is not helping me and they're never going to be able to help me. Cumulative disadvantage. And you can experience that within a family dynamic. Nobody really talks about it. Why? Because we're all under the assumption that family is everything. We never really talk about the fact that a lot of people do not believe that family is everything. If you have a loving, wonderful, close-knit family, that is the highest blessing, right? But it is not owed to us. It's not given to us. And it is not something that everybody in the world experiences. I asked my client the other day, excuse me, I'm going to go to the chat box in a little bit, but I asked my client the other day, she was crying because she had a hard time conceptualizing that her mother wasn't the mother that she's always needed. And her father certainly wasn't the dad that she's always needed. So she has these big holes in her heart and in her soul because she doesn't have a mom and she doesn't have a dad. She's had to live with the reality that mom is narcissistic and self-centered and has multiple affairs and lies all the time. And dad tends to be very passive, afraid, and doesn't stand up for himself. So I have no mom and I have no dad. And so she's had to live with that for the past 25 years of her life. And what she has realized is she has experienced cumulative disadvantages. It's not just the loss of mom and dad, but it's also the loss of a romantic relationship that she thought was blooming into a marriage. It's the loss of psychological stability because she now has PTSD and some forms of complex PTSD. And in her heart, she continues to carry pain every day. And so one bad thing on top of another bad thing on top of another bad thing over time can create a lot of disadvantages, cause a lot of disadvantages for you. And so that's why we call it cumulative disadvantage. Okay, let me go to the chat box, guys. In this live chat tonight about the truth of family, I really want you to keep in mind, I'm going to give you an overview, then I'm going to go to the chat box. I really want you to keep in mind that this is not a family, what's the word I'm looking for? A family bashing conversation. It's a conversation to kind of balance and equal the playing field. It's like saying we need to focus on what is for most people while appreciating what is, right? So appreciating that there are some situations where family is beautiful, it's wonderful, it's everything, but we also through conversation and dialogue need to support the reality that that's not the case for everybody. And so those people, in order to keep them from being lost and falling through the cracks, we have to look at this, we have to look at the common issues here that's happening right in the middle of family. And so we're going to look at that. I also want to give you some common challenges in a family where it is not healthy. It is not stability for most people. It is not that white picket fence family. And I've seen this and research is highlighting it. So we're going to go over that. I want to give you a little bit of research and then we're going to talk about how this impacts you and then wrap up. Okay. So, yeah, Ponytail, I see you. All right, let me go to you then, since you're the other one. Since you're the first one that I see on my radar. Ponytail, hello and welcome. Good to see you. I think I welcomed you already, but I'm welcoming you again. Good to see you. Ponytail says, this is so good. I needed this today. And Ponytail goes on to say, thanks. You're welcome. You're welcome. I think that before I go to Felix, I do want to say, I think that we need to create dialogue that is healthy and balanced so that proper validation can happen. It's only when you feel invalidated, it's only when you feel like the oddball sticking out, and it's only when you feel that your experiences are rare that you kind of get stuck in the pain and the disappointment. And I've seen this over the past 15 years of my career with my clients. It's when I start talking, it's when a therapist starts picking and pulling things apart. It's maybe that one thing that therapist has said 5 minutes before the session is ending that really can transform and change your life, right? So these live chats, considering what you said, Ponytail, that you needed this today, live chats are really that way as well. It's how do we look at the truth so that we can then validate the experience of many of you? Because if you go to mainstream media, you're going to be invalidated. That's really the reality of that. Felix, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Felix says, I'm so happy to see that you're alive today. Yes, and I'm so glad to have you. Good to see you. Mark Lee, welcome back. Good to see you. And I read that before I signed on, and I'm like, that is good. Thank you so much for that. I love that comment. Thank you. Laura Fett, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Says a must need a topic. I hope I can make it tonight. Yes, I hope you can. Spiky Potato, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Good to see you back tonight. Abundant Life, Sylvia Love Jones, Fairy Girl, Sun and Sunflowers, Sammy D, and Starburst. Hello and welcome to all of you. Good to see you. I really like seeing you guys in the chat box. And Starburst, thank you so much for that. I appreciate you. Fifi LaFleur, hello and welcome. Hope this is helpful for a lot of you tonight. Rochella, hello, good to see you. And my girl, Marie Katri, good to see you. So good to see you. I hope this chat is going to be helpful to you. Courtney Frazier, Fairy Girl, Michelle, Lynn, and Sabrina Mitchell. Hello and welcome to all of you. Good to see you. Yeah, and so good to see you, Sabrina. That's my mom's name, by the way. So I saw it earlier and I'm like, Mom, are you on? So glad you can make it with us. Excuse me. Orlando, Patrick Black, number 1, and Kev Dower and Dawn 1. Good to see you. Good to see you guys. Okay, I'm looking for comments. Bear with me. Because there's a lot going on here. Monique Easton, hello. Good to see you. Peace and love to you. Socialite Polity, good to see you as well. And Axe the Edge from Barbados. Hello. Good to see you. You are not late. We just signed on. Patrick Black01 says, my saying is blood doesn't make you family. You're just a relative. Mm-hmm. That saying goes for the toxic people in that circle. Yeah, I totally get you. For me, family is who treats you the best, right? Because you can have a cousin, an uncle, an aunt, a niece, a sibling who treats you like you are the worst thing on earth. And you can go to Target or a grocery store, for an example, and bump into somebody, a stranger, who needs your smile, needs your courage, right? Feels motivated by you, seems to appreciate time spent with you, right? Even if it's just 2 seconds to talk to somebody. My mom is like that. Long before she turned 50 years old, she was the kind of mother I remember, and I used to joke with her about this all the time. Why do you go to the deli and start talking to people? And it's not like literally she would go to the grocery store and I would be somewhere else in the store trying to hurry and get the heck out of there because I can't stand crowds too much. And my mom's like at the deli, talking to the chef, talking to the man over there sweeping the floor, talking to the other customer, talking to the manager. I'm like, what is all of this commotion? But my mom met no stranger. That is who my mother, Sabrina, is. And that's who she continues to be. There are people that I see in her presence even today, and they don't want to leave. Even when my mom was in the hospital for her recent stroke, the doctors and the nurses would literally just come in and hang out with her for a little bit, talk about Jeopardy, talk about Wheel of Fortune. Like, that's who she is. So back to what you're saying, Patrick Black, one, that relatives and family doesn't have to be who you're connected to. Some of my mom's extended family wouldn't find her amusing, but everybody else in the world loves to be around her. So, you can go somewhere and see what your worth and your value is outside of your family. And to me, that is a very, very valuable experience. And maybe in a sense, it's telling you the kind of people that could really be your true family, right? And it doesn't have to be those that share your blood. Fairy Girl says, time not important, only life important. Fifth element. Ooh. Fairy Girl, you're gonna have to break that down for me. It's not registering, and it is not you, it's me. James McDonald, I've been so tired lately. James McDonald, hello, good to see you. I know you can relate to this topic for sure. James McDonald says, family is most certainly not everything for me. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Let me briefly say that in my area we have like this number one radio station in our area, and there's a man that my mom listens to every morning. My brothers listen to him. He's very politically based, and he's kind of like this wannabe rescuer in our local area. And so he has his own radio show that comes on in the morning, and almost every other morning, because I catch him on podcast as well, every other morning he says something like, family is everything. He says, you are nothing without family. Then he goes back and says, because family is everything. You are nothing without your family. And I just sit there and I listen to him and I just cringe, because what is the message that you're sending to people who have lost family members because they've passed away, who have never had family members because they're in the adoption or foster system, who was never able to conceive and bear a child or get married to create a family? What are you saying to those people? And so I think his view is so very, very limited. And not very knowledgeable, because I think we have to be careful with saying family is everything. That is not the truth, right? Live Life, hello, good to see you. Always glad to see you in a live chat. Live Life says, peace, family. So glad I could make it tonight. Oh my God, I love your earrings, Tamara. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I really appreciate that. She's doing well. My mom, just very briefly, and we're going to get back to this, my mom is kind of like up and down, and so we're just trying to figure things out, and it's really hard. It's hard, but we're making it, and she's doing better. Thank you. Rochella, thank you for saying this. This was actually a passage my mom used to have highlighted in her Bible. And I would see it in her Bible. We'd be in church, and I was so terribly bored. And I would be like, I need something to read or I'm going to die. And I would pick up the Bible and I would look at different things my mom would highlight. And so, Rochella, this is the scripture that would be highlighted, that a man's enemies would be the members of his own household. And sometimes that is the case, right? Yeah. Sometimes your very best friend is your enemy. Sammy D says, I found out very quickly who actually cared. When I was extremely unwell, I suddenly became an inconvenience for some. Absolutely. Absolutely. Doesn't the caregiving journey prove how much you love your family member? It's amazing, right? We kids, my siblings and I, my mom realizes, I think, for the first time, that we love her dearly, because there is not one thing that I wouldn't do, and my siblings. So I think that caregiving period, you're right, you can really determine who's for you and who's not for you. Let me also throw in here, when family members pass away, sometimes the wolves come out of the closet in your family, right? Somebody wants money, somebody wants to be on the estate, somebody wants to be the executor or the power of attorney, and you're like, oh my God, just sit down, But even death and dying can really show you who your family is and is not. Emin Odell, hello, good to see you. Always glad to see you in a live chat. Okay, bear with me, guys. Sun and Sunflower says, it took me a long time to get past Family is everything. Once I realized they don't care and take out their rage on me, I no longer keep company with them. Yeah. I'm sorry, sun and sunflowers. I think when you have those experiences, and it didn't happen once, it didn't happen twice, it didn't happen 3 times, it didn't happen 4 times, it's happened over the duration of your lifespan or your time, that's when you know a problem is present. Does that make sense, guys? There's a problem here because we can never seem to be on the same page. Phoenix, hello, good to see you. I don't know if I welcomed you. I think so. It's nice to see you too, Phoenix. Always glad to see you. M and Odell says, I have to think many families didn't have that togetherness in the past. They grew up, moved away, and created a life of their own. Maybe they got together for family reunions occasionally. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I have to think about that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I tend to feel like families in the olden days were closer than they are in today's world. There's actually some research that suggests that family estrangement and going no contact has risen since 2020. So COVID time. So go figure. I'll put that research down in the description box for you as well. Jeremy Robinson, hello. Always good to see you in the chat box. Jeremy Robinson says, basically, sweep everything that's going on under the family rug. Yep. Sounds like my family. I've never understood that mindset because that just causes even more pain. I agree. Here's what I see happen in a therapeutic context. If we keep everything swept under the carpet and hidden, you have peace that is immediate, right? Because it's like, okay, let me get these crumbs off and then move on. The reality for these kind of families is if I could just kind of squash all that ugly stuff for the time being, I'm probably going to forget it. Nobody's going to be interested, or I can act like it never happened. And those are 3 easier options than just saying this is the reality of the situation, right? I've had clients in the past who have children who have Down syndrome, severe autism, have sexually molested their sibling, have been incarcerated for really negative things, right? And these individuals would rather sweep all of that under the carpet and act like it's not happening than to address it then and there. And again, that's a temporary mechanism. Tiffany Lorraine, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Yeah, you said so much hate in my community. Maybe you can expound upon that. You did mention it in 2 of my previous live chats. So if you can, expound upon that, that would be great. Welcome, by the way. Good to see you back. Courtney Fraser, I'm just going to put this up for people to see as I scan and see if I can read anybody else before we go back to the content. Destiny, good to see you. Hello. Welcome back. Yeah, I totally get that. Destiny says it keeps me so stuck. It can. Yep, it can. George Young, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Says that sounds like Stockholm syndrome. Yeah, that could be a part of this dynamic too. Yep. The Good Glow, good to see you. Yeah. Ooh, I like that. Tam and Fam, back for more soul food. Ooh, that's good. Thank you for saying that. Bijal Patel, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Hello and welcome. Good to see you. Says, my father said I was a piece of garbage because I was not making enough money at my job. And my mother wants me to run out of money so I cannot support myself. I wouldn't be surprised. Sounds like there's a lot of history there, Not good. Not good. One more comment before I go back to the chat box. El Duke, hello and welcome. Good to see you. And thank you for saying that in support of him and anybody else who's on here tonight. Thank you for saying that. That's why I have it up there for people to see. Okay, one last comment. Axe the edge is highlighting cumulative disadvantage. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting term, right? We could do a whole live chat on that. Okay, guys, so what are the common issues here? The common issues in families that are toxic, dysfunctional, unhealthy, and they certainly do not emerge from the family is everything mentality. What is going on in these families? The number one thing that I see and also research did seem to zone in on, is in these kind of families, subtext is often missing. Subcontext is often missing. And really what that means is this, that these individuals in your family, they judge you, they talk about you, they manipulate you in a way to support their own theory of you, to make other people see you a certain way, and for other people to draw conclusions that are inaccurate. There's no subcontext. They leave it out. Either they do it unintentionally or they do it intentionally. And really what it ends up doing, it's kind of like a passive aggressive thing. Really what they end up doing is saying, here's all the ugly, bad things that this person said, did, wanted to do, expressed, right? But I'm going to leave out all of this detail over here, which is that I wasn't a good mom. I was an alcoholic mother. And then her dad was on drugs really bad. And then we became homeless. And then, my husband started beating my son. And then my son started drugs to self-medicate. Like all this subcontext over here is left out, while that person is just running with ideas and statements and things that make you look a certain way. But there's a ton of subcontext that's missing for us, for anybody, to better understand the dynamic, to better understand the relationship. I see this a lot in therapy. I see parents who are tired, fatigued, angry, disappointed with their children. They come and sit down, and the first thing they say is, I don't know why she's acting like that. I have no idea. And she told me she was suicidal. She told me she self-harms. She went out of the house the other day without asking me and her father, and then the parent may say something like, and she wants to go no contact as soon as she turns 18. I don't know why she's behaving this way. Well, the more I listen, the more I ask questions, the more I get to know you, I realize that you've left out 90% of the problem. And that could be, I was always abusive. I was always controlling. My husband is an alcoholic. We don't live the perfect life. This child has depression. Like, there's a lot of context. But in families like this, where they are dysfunctional and toxic, they leave out that subcontext. I hope that makes sense. Dialogue is very poor in these kind of families, right? You can't communicate in a healthy way because the dialogue is poor. We use profanity every 2 seconds to express ourselves. When in all actuality, for me, profanity doesn't express much of anything. You're not breaking anything down for me to understand. You're spewing. And sometimes profanity is a way to spew your own frustration. But that doesn't tell me you're sad, doesn't tell me you're depressed, doesn't tell me you're angry, And it's one curse word. It doesn't say much, right? And so, and that's just my view of that, by the way. That's my clinical view of that. You may disagree. But research does suggest that dialogue is very poor within these families. And I've noticed in sessions over the past 15 years that if somebody uses profanity, I still don't understand where you're coming from, because you're using all of these labels that are offensive and expresses your frustration, but that also doesn't break things down, right? And so there's poor dialogue. There's also hidden agendas in these kind of families, that hidden deep, dark secret. If you have a Machiavellian sibling who gets stimulation from doing you wrong and lying on you, or talking against you, or manipulating people around you, getting you fired, right? Gossiping about your failures, whatever the case may be, that internal hidden agenda disrupts the family dynamic, And sometimes that toxic sibling who has a hidden agenda can then go run off and talk to your cousin who develops a hidden agenda as well. And maybe they will go to the next aunt, right? And it can perpetuate in your family. That's really my point there. There's a lot of power struggles and power differentials. Remember, guys, a power differential says, I'm up here, you're down here. I'm up here because I'm your parent. You're going to do as I say, right? And that keeps you on the bottom. You're not going to be heard. You're not going to be understood. Why? Because I'm on the top and I reign. So power differentials also breaks down these kind of families. A lack of balance also breaks down families, and it causes this family toxicity. There's no balance There's no give and take. There's no cooperation. There's just everybody's leaning to this side. There's no balance whatsoever. And families need balance, right? Balance can be seen in how you manage religiosity, right? There's some kids or some adult children, I should put it that way, who feel like I don't want to go to church. I don't feel a connection. No one's speaking to my heart and my soul. No one's helping me change. No one's helping me feel better about the state of the world. You know what? I'm not going to church. I'm out. Well, what happens in dynamics like that, I'm sure you guys can relate. What happens is the parents will come down on you harshly. You will be judged, right? You may be manipulated. You may be guilt tripped. The list just goes on, right? And so that is imbalance. We don't want to do that. I always encourage my families to do it this way. Let that person experience and go through that cycle. Because if they're going to distance from religion, the last thing you want to do is try to force them back into it. Because now you're not giving them the opportunity to figure out where they are, right? And so it's kind of manipulative. You only want them to go this way because you know it's the best way, or you want them to be a certain way, but that is not helpful. So in these kind of dynamics, there's imbalance. There's no respect for your space to choose and to feel and to try to figure things out, The other thing is there's no active listening. Active listening does not happen at all. I've been in sessions where, I've done therapy with the child. The child is able to voice their opinion, to get their feelings out properly, without profanity, without offending anyone. They have the language to say, this is how I feel. Well, okay, great, good. That's what my client needs to be. But then the husband will come into the session, or the sibling, or the cousin, or the parent, and they're not listening. They're listening to respond. They're listening to defend themselves. They're listening for inconsistencies that they can call out. They are not listening. And so that's often a thing that happens in these families as well. You guys can most likely relate. Biased narratives, meaning narratives are one-sided in a family, right? There's no balance here. It's biased. Interruptions could be anything from a parent going to jail for years to I cut you off every time you try to verbalize how you feel. Interruptions, they are also one of the reasons why marriages are broken down. There's interruptions. There's no interconnectedness, Entitlement. I am entitled to think this way. I am entitled to get what I want. I am entitled to act this way. That breaks down families. Strategic use of silence. I'm not going to respond to you. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to let you keep talking until you feel stupid. Or I'm going to let you keep expressing your emotions, but I'm not going to feed it. I'm going to sit in this passenger side in the car and let you ask me questions and talk to me, but I will not let you feel like I'm listening. So strategic use of silence. We can also call that stonewalling. We could call it putting up a defense mechanism, but really it's strategic use of silence. It's I have a reason why I'm silencing out, and I'm hoping it gets to you. There may be maintenance of the power differential. And the way that you maintain a power differential is you either stop supporting that other family member financially, emotionally, psychologically, right? Somewhere something comes to a screeching halt, and that causes that power differential to remain intact. Narcissistic mother, let's say you moved out of the house, you were doing really well for 5 years. Now you're getting a divorce, your life is shifting, and you go to your narcissistic mother for a loan. Your narcissistic mother says, I'm not funding your turnaround in life. You have to go to work. And so maybe mom's intent is to maintain that power differential over you by not giving you what you need to get back on your feet again. So that's an example of that. There may also be what we call an enriching of lies, untruths, with exaggeration. If I can just enrich this lie of mine with I'll put it this way, with exaggerations, with stretching certain elements and pieces of this, then who can go against me, right? The more elaborate the lie is, the better. The more convincing, the better. And so you also see this in families. Now, let me also say, before I go back to the chat box, and then I'm going to give you the final pieces of the content. I'm a little over time tonight. But let me also say the research suggested that in these kind of dysfunctional, toxic family dynamics, marriage tends to be the mediator. You know, it kind of redirects the criminal trajectory. And really what that big sentence means is this, that the cumulative disadvantages, the legal challenges, the addictions, any of those disadvantages that you may have experienced, some research suggests that once marriage occurs in your life, you are better able to find stability. You are better able to come up against toxic family dynamics that you've always been held hostage to. You know, this is not for everyone, but some of the research says that for some reason, most likely the stability and the commitment in a marriage is what kind of gets you out of that trap, you know? Cohabitation was also another thing, that there's some people who can move in together and they create their own lives. Friends, family members move in together. They habitat? Is that the right word? Yeah, they're in cohabitation. I'm sorry, guys. That's the word I was trying to say. And somehow that kind of balances things out for them, you know? And then early family stability is helpful, right? Having that stable parent after birth, having that stable adult figure, support figure throughout your childhood development has also been shown by research to be a strong factor that can help you kind of shovel yourself out of this dysfunctional, toxic family dynamic. Imagine growing up in a family where you've got family members who don't give subcontext. They don't help you understand anything. Dialogue is poor on top of that, right? Power differentials are left and right. Manipulation is all over the place. Boundaries are totally ignored. Nobody listens. They only listen to respond, to defend, or to find inconsistencies. You know, there is this strategic use of silence, right? Rebellion, you know, there's no compromise. Imagine if you haven't experienced this, imagine living in a family where all of this is happening. I couldn't do it, right? And some people are doing it. Okay, let me briefly go back to the chat box, and then I'm going to give you how this impacts you, and then we're going to wrap up because I really got to get going by 8:30. The Good Glow says, I saw my mom at Walgreens, but we never saw me, and I saw her. Okay, I understand what you're trying to say. The Good Glow, you guys saw each other at Walgreens, but you never saw each other. Is that what you're trying to say? Yeah. I have clients who are like that too. They walk right past their cousins in Lowe's, Home Depot, Giant Eagle, you know, all the main stores and even restaurants, and they won't speak. No. Sabrina Mitchell says, when my parents passed, my branch to their family ended. Yeah, that's a good point. That happens a lot. The love was superficial and only valid when they were alive. Wow. Yeah, I have seen that so many times. And let me say, my extended family, same exact way. X Atlan, I'm going to say that. Forgive me if it's wrong. Welcome. Good to see you on the channel. X Atlan says this also applies with toxic family uses child relatives as emotional pawns. Yeah. You have parentification. That's an emotional pawn. You have, what's that other part? Parental alienation. You have parentification, where you become the parent to your siblings, right? Parental alienation. I'm going to fill your head up with all these negative things of the other parent. And there's also adultification, where the individual becomes an adult much sooner. So that can be emotional for sure. That can be a part of the whole emotional pawn. So I'm glad you mentioned that. But X Atlan says this also applies with toxic family, where there is child relatives that are used as emotional pawns. I'm going to add my own words in there, especially when they aren't your own children, such as grandchildren, nieces, nephews, etc. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's manipulation. I would even go so far as to call that triangulation. That's how I would do that. Star, hello. Good to see you. Always glad to see you. On here, Star says, oh, so grateful you're putting out this information out to the world. So needed. Thank you so much for that. And I very much agree. Very much agree. We're behind in the field of psychology. I love my field, but we're behind. Kiki B, hello, good to see you. Kiki B says, when and from who is it appropriate to receive validation from? Well, I really don't know what to say to that, other than you want to find validation from a person who knows what they're talking about. I'll leave it at that. Sean Hazel, hello. Good to see you back. And thank you so much for that. I take that as a compliment. Thank you. All right, guys, I'm going to skim through this because I don't want to be late, and I can't be late. Seed Kane, hello. Good to see you. Welcome to the chat and the channel, by the way. Seed Kane says, can you please help the subjectivity the Cosby Show is giving me VD looks? Well, I mean, maybe break that down to me and post it in the comment section once we sign off. Let me say the Cosby Show, Family Matters, Mama's Family. What are the other shows, guys? Come on. Don't let me age myself alone, because I know you guys know the Mama's Family. And if you don't, oh my God. But Mama's Family, Family Matters, The Cosby Show, Full House, they were all my shows growing up. They were all Sister, Tia and Tamara. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. If you look at all those TV shows, right? They're all lies. All lies. Not 100% for everyone. But if you watch those shows strategically and you observe them rather than get engulfed in them, there's a difference. Because if you're engulfed in them, you can't stand on the outside and see the problem. But if you observe them through a different lens, you can look at the Cosbys and say, I don't know anybody that has a dad that great. I don't know anybody that has two really educated parents that are doctors, lawyers, and have great education. That's not the family of color I see in my neighborhood. The Huxtables are really up here for a lot of people in terms of class and education, and the list goes on, right? And most people can't relate to that. Full House. Tell me when there's a family where everybody lives in the same house and they are supporting each other. Does it happen? Yes. But is that something that happens for most people? Likely not, right? So if you look at each of those shows strategically, you start to see that, ooh, this is mind. What's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? It's escaping me. Oh, it'll come to me as soon as I sign off. Brainwashing. That's the word. It's brainwashing, Bossy Truthy 15, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Tara, hello, welcome. Good to see you as well. Tara says, absolutely, family can be jealous of you. Yes, they can. If you missed it this week, go back and see my most recent video. I talk about jealousy and I try to break it down and give you different angles. Janine MacArthur, hello and welcome. Good to see you as well. Thank you for that comment. I'm putting it up here so that everybody can see. Is it Kathia Diva 7? If I messed that up, forgive me. Hello and welcome from Atlanta. I have some extended family that are from Atlanta. Okay, I'm just going to put you up here, Phoenix. A cumulative disadvantage. I just want people to be able to see that. Anne of Hearts, hello and welcome. Good to see you as well. Okay, I'm scrolling because I do have to leave here in a little bit. Sylvia Love Jones, family is everything, is not the truth. Good call, Tamara. Well, I hate to say that, but again, not for everybody. We need to be a little bit more balanced, don't we? Okay. Thank you, El Duke. Thank you so much. Yes. Oh, that's so humbling. I'm going to show her that. Thank you so much for that. She is a bright light to the world. Yes, she is. Thank you. Star, I'm going to put this up here so people can see. Okay. MS, you're welcome. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. A seat at the King's table with Tanisha. Welcome to the chat, by the way, MS. And a seat at the King's table with Tanisha. Welcome to the chat as well. Good to see you. Anne of Hearts, did I welcome you? I'm sorry. Hello. Welcome. If I didn't welcome you. Anne of Hearts says, be careful because when they get away with it long enough, they believe they can get away with anything. That is true. I agree. I agree. Looking for somebody that I haven't gotten to yet. Kim Matthew, hello. Yeah, same to you. And thank you for that. Drive safe. Don't be like me. Sometimes I'm like 100 miles per hour on the turnpike, talking, trying to get people to stop calling me, trying to listen to a podcast while trying to drink a coffee. So don't do like me, okay? Orlando, I'm going to put this up here. I love that scripture as well. Okay. And I'm going to say hello to Team Mac before we go back to the content. I literally have 7 minutes to get through this. Team Mac, hello and welcome. Good to see you tonight. Team Mac says, growing up in urban areas, if you're not close to your family, you become a target in the neighborhood. It's very difficult to survive in that environment because you have to use discernment constantly. Yes, you do. I don't know. I think I've shared this with you guys that my background has also been forensic psychology, where in my past, I'm working with kiddos where they are juvenile delinquents, they have conduct disorder, they have antisocial personality traits, they have oppositional defiant disorder. So I used to work on a unit where kids would come in shackled, ankles and wrists, and our sessions would include a lock and a key, getting the handcuffs off and the ankle chains off so they can sit and have a session with me. What I learned working with boys, okay, because I was only a therapist to boys in that program, and working with boys who were considered problems in society in a juvenile delinquent, I agree, T-Mac, part of the revolving door of the system for those kids is I kind of have to fight to survive. I kind of have to be close to my family. And if I'm not, I'm going to probably die, probably be bullied, probably be harassed. And yet when I get in trouble in my city or in my area for standing up for myself or coming from a difficult family or experiencing cumulative disadvantage, I get handcuffed or I get put into this program. And so it's a revolving door, right, T-Mac? I know you know that. It's a painful revolving door, right? Okay, let me give you the final pieces of this, okay, guys? Impact to you. What is the impact? Well, number one, research in psychology, and I see this as well in my practice, is if you come from a family like this, there's going to be a disrupted transition to adulthood, It's going to be hard to experience your life in a balanced and organized way when you come from a family that is dysfunctional, toxic, and they don't know how to support your healthy development. So there's a disruption in how you should be developing over time. And sometimes that disruption leads to mental health problems, substance abuse problems, promiscuous behavior and experiences, right? Growing up too fast, adultification. I mean, we could just go down the whole list, right? So there's often a disruption in the transition from childhood to adulthood. You may also have transitional periods in your life are completely absent, and transitional periods that are healthy and that are there to support you are gone, right? That healthy transition to age 14, from childhood to becoming an adolescent, usually a changing body, a changing mind, changing emotions, all of that, right? A transition from middle school, elementary school to high school, a transition from high school to college, or 18 to late adulthood. All of those transitions should be healthy, and they should also help you overcome any kind of disadvantages that may be in your life. But when you come from a family like this, those transitional periods never happen. And if they do happen, they're short-lived or they're dysfunctional, You may also find yourself kind of sucked in to a very lively fantasy of what family is. And it's only until you can come to a place where we all are on this chat tonight that you can say, wait a minute, let me push away from this lovely looking table and let me pick and pull apart what's my true reality. You know, this platter here looks beautiful, but is this my platter? And once you can do that, I think that's where growth happens. But a lot of people get sucked into this lively fantasy of family. You may also have recidivism or somebody in your family, or poor post release behavior, meaning you're not doing well after hospitalization. You're not doing well after incarceration. You're not doing well after you leave an abusive situation. Like there's a really rocky road for you, and maybe a family member that you know. It's a rocky road. You can't get back up because cumulative disadvantage has taken over your life. And all you know to do is try to survive, but it's not easy to do that when your family is dysfunctional. Negative family connectedness is also an issue. We're connected, we're going over each other's homes, we're having holidays, we're going to birthdays, sometimes we do vacations, sometimes we text, talk on the phone, but every kind of encounter that I have with my family is absolutely a problem. It's drama, it's a problem, it's demeaning, it's scary, it's humiliating, right? So negative interconnectedness can also be a part of this as well. And you kind of lose a healthy perspective on all relationships when that number one important relationship is dysfunctional. Family should be the number one healthy place to be in, but it isn't for everyone. And so you may find that you lose a perspective of healthy relationships of all kind. Because again, family is supposed to be that important piece. And if that's not quite clicking in your world, you may find yourself close the door to romance, close the door to friendships, close the door to neighbor relationships, because you lose healthy perspective, right, guys? This is complicated. I did do a couple videos in the past on family is not everything if they hurt you. I'm going to post that in the description box for you. I have some things I need to go do, and then I'm going to come back and look at all of your comments and engage you a little bit. And then tomorrow, you may want to come back. Tomorrow is a live chat on narcissistic siblings, and I'm going to pull in how dysfunctional parents kind of feed that narcissistic sibling and how that can impact you over time. So come join me tomorrow. I just want to highlight just a few more comments before I sign off. Let me just say, excuse me, hello to G Major. Good to see you and welcome. I'm looking at your comment here. I'm just going to post it so everybody can see it. It's good to see you, G Major. Haven't seen you in a while. Fairy Girl, I'm going to post that up there, okay? Jeremy Robinson says, I look at the old saying, family is everything, the same way I see when people say, if you're not in a relationship, then you're nothing, which is incredibly toxic. It's incredibly toxic. It's incredibly erroneous, and it's incredibly immature. You know, you can be single, and I love being single, okay? Doesn't mean I'm going to close the door to anybody else. And I probably answer some questions that you guys have been asking me for years. But it's freedom, right? It's freedom. So nothing's wrong with that. Nothing is wrong with that at all. Some of my clients come in and they're like, I'm single and I'm happy. Why do I keep feeling all this pressure from people who say that you're nothing if you're not in a relationship? Honestly, for most people, it should probably be the reverse. That you're probably better off for being single, right? Because then you don't have to deal with all the things that comes with dealing with a toxic relationship. That's one way to look at that. James McDonald says the worst type of abuse is the covert type. Yeah. Where you have a group of people who you think that care for you are actually plotting your downfall while enjoying every minute of it. Absolutely. Totally agree. Totally agree. Okay. Totally agree. All right. Sammy D, I'm going to put you up here. You says, God forbid you would ever make a mistake and do something wrong. Suddenly everything you did right and everything you got right is quickly forgotten. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. That's a good point. Laura Fett, hello. Good to see you back. I don't know. I said hello to you, I think. Laura Fett says late to class. Yes, you're welcome. Axe to Edge, you're welcome. Star says estrangement has risen because more people have become aware that they are and have been abused for years. More estrangement will come in the future once people learn how to self-protect. Yeah, I really think that's a good point. I very much agree. Very much agree. Okay, just looking for one last person. Corey Lee, hello, welcome. Good to have you in tonight's live chat. I don't remember you, so welcome to the chat and the channel. Sandra Browers, I hope I said that correctly. Hello and welcome. Good to see you and welcome to the channel as well. Okay, I literally have to run. I have to run, but I'm going to end it on Fifi LaFleur, you're the lucky one. Fifi LaFleur says, so if we have a family like this where we were the scapegoat and they all talk poorly about us and we're ostracized, how do we heal? Therapy hasn't worked for me at all. Well, here's the thing. Therapy doesn't work for everyone. Maybe you didn't have the right therapist. Maybe the therapist you had has no clue about the dynamic, right? So you want to look at some space there that you can kind of play around with. Well, maybe I need another therapist. Maybe I need this kind of therapist instead. Maybe that wasn't a good time in my life when I went to therapy. Maybe I'm going to be better now. So play with that a little bit. The other thing is boundaries, right? Once you see a family who does this to you, then you can put up the boundaries a little bit. You don't have to answer them. You don't owe them any explanation. You can keep certain things private or share whatever you want, right? Share your life strategically. There's many different things, Fifi LaFleur, that you can kind of do when you come from a family like this. I may bring this up tomorrow during the conversation on narcissistic siblings. Okay, guys, thank you so much for being with me in tonight's live chat. I truly hope this was helpful, validating, insightful. Let me know if you have any comments. Post them in the comment section because I will be looking at them later tonight. Okay, guys, I hope you have a wonderful Friday. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.